Our endless summer event is your savings paradise with outstanding offers at Capital Ford in Santa Fe. Like a new Ford F-150 STX, it's a summer buy for $699 a month plus 4.9% APR financing for 72 months. Or get summer savings on a new 2025 Ford Bronco with 0% APR for 48 months. Your summer of savings is right here, right now, during our endless summer event, going on now at Capital Ford in
Hey, welcome back to another live episode of the Pit Press Live, October 5th. My name is Eric Moulton, host of the Pit Press Live, joined tonight by the voice of Western New Mexico Mustangs and a Lobo fan since 1970, Mr. Ed Nunez. Sir, how's it going tonight?
Yeah, doing good, Eric. Was able, I was in Silver City on Friday, but I was able to catch the Lobos in my motel room. Just coming up a little bit short, a little bit disappointed. They, started off in a little bit of a hole, and we've got our expert on to talk about the breakdown of that game. But I thought New Mexico did come back and fight. They were 2 touchdowns down, and, they needed a stop on third down on San Jose State's last possession. They couldn't get it. So, but all in all, I thought they put out a good effort. Just like we said, came up a little short.
Thought they did too. I thought they were a little outmanned. We'll kind of dive in more into the X's and O's part of it, but they were resilient. They kept answering, and they kind of dug themselves out of a hole. I think they just ran out of time. But also joined this evening, former UNM quarterback and a frequent guest on the show, Mr. Ned James. Sir, how are you doing this evening?
Hey, I'm doing great, guys. Thanks for having me in. Appreciate you guys bringing me on today. Got a little chilly, so I threw on my Cleveland Browns hoodie. So I got to get some more Lobo gear so I can start wearing some Lobo hoodies.
Maybe we'll get your take later, but curious to know your thoughts on the Cleveland Browns quarterback debacle and everything going on there. So,
yeah, rookie quarterback. I mean, that's what happens. No, I was just talking about the rookie quarterback, and when you got a rookie quarterback, they just struggled a little bit today, but it's a rookie quarterback, so they got as much as they're going to get out of that guy.
Yeah. Well, let's jump right into Lobo football. UNM falls to San Jose State, 35-28, a game that the Lobos kind of fell behind early, 14-0. Looked like they struggled defensively, Ed, to me a little bit. I felt like they had a hard time kind of covering that spread and shed. Walker Eget just seemed like he just kind of fell, like he had a really strong rhythm, was able to kind of pick apart that secondary. Not a whole lot of defensive line pressure, but what was your initial thought of that game, and how'd you feel like UNM showed up? I felt like they might have had a little bit a bigger a bigger target on their back. But how did you think they fared out?
Ned, did you hear the question?
I thought, the game is, yeah. No, I heard the question. Yeah. Just we played a 5-man box. We played real conservative. I just thought that Egan did a really good job of understanding what he was looking at, even when we tried to pressure him. I mean, they were protecting him. I knew the offensive line was a little bit better than New Mexico State's offensive line, so he would have some time. And he didn't miss. I mean, he's the #1 passer in the conference for a reason. He did an exceptional job, I felt, just with executing their offense. When we played a light box, they ran the ball. And that's what you do when there's a light box. It's 5 men in the box, and they ran the ball. They ran the ball unusually more times than we did. Than we saw them do in other games. So I think that was critical because they were able to really execute the run game, and that's why I think they were able to kind of put forth, kind of a perfect game, so to speak, with the completions. I mean, I think he had 13 straight completions without an incomplete up until the second quarter. So Egan did a phenomenal job. San Jose State did a phenomenal job. You got to tip your hat to them because we really couldn't stop that run game. I thought that's what really hurt us, probably more than the passing. Even though they completed a bunch of passes early and got up on top of us because we had the early turnover that kind of put us behind the 8 ball early. But we were able to come back and give a little bit of an effort as the game progressed.
You know what, Dan, I want to ask you this. New Mexico's running game the last couple of weeks, we know the Aggies, New Mexico State sold out to stop the run. But New Mexico struggled again on Friday to run the ball. Does that concern you at all? Bankston had a couple good carries, but Scottree Humphrey, 6 carries for 10 yards. Outside of the Idaho game, he hasn't really looked like the running back that was named to the All-Mountain West Conference team, the preseason team. Do you have any concerns with their running game at all?
I said it before the game. They were going to have the same game plan as New Mexico State. They were going to try to shut down the run. I thought they were comparable to New Mexico State, maybe a little bit better athletically on the perimeter and as well at the in the back end with the defensive backs. And so they were going to make us throw the ball. The first interception, they have the flea flicker reverse pass. If the receiver just flips the ball back and just keeps running, the guy who's playing him man-to-man because they blitzed and we protected it pretty well would have went with him on the reverse. But he pitched the ball back and stopped and tried to help block. And so his man that was going to cover him on the other side of the field stopped as well and sees the tight end leak out and then reacts to the tight end, and that's how they get that interception. Because I thought it was just Jake just screwing it up. But if you watch when you watch the film, you see that the receiver stops, and so that the guy who's playing a man-to-man that's going across the other side of the field with him stops in the middle of the field. Then he retraces his steps and goes back and intercepts the ball from the tight end. And like you said, the running game, they were doing exactly what New Mexico State. They were selling out. So we had, Keegan Johnson had a big game. It's a game of inches. Guys were, route running. I thought the last interception, the third interception of the game, was probably the only one that was really Jack Lane's fault. He kind of held the ball and kind of told where he was going to go with the ball and then threw it late. And the guy got an easy interception in front of Dorian Thomas. It was a really good concept that they ran. The deep ball that he threw when he got hit, they ran like a delayed blitz and was able to hit him right before the ball got there. But Keegan Johnson's got to knock that ball down. But he couldn't find the ball. So, I mean, you just can't turn it over 3 times. It was really a close game. And I thought, just the fact that the ball got turned over really put the Lobos in a bind in that game. But the fact that they had those gigantic splits. They had 2-foot splits with the offensive line. And I thought, we might shoot the gap a couple times and make plays. And we did a little bit in the run game. But, boy, they creased us a couple times with the run game. and they really ran the ball. My prediction before the game was that if they threw it over 40 times, we got to get 2 touches on the ball. We got to get 2 interceptions. Well, we had 1 interception went right through the safety's hands, McBean's hands, early in the game, which gave him a touchdown. He tips it, and the guy catches the touchdown when it was right in his hands. And then, they only threw the ball 30 times, which was shocking because they average over 40 times a game that they threw the ball, but they were running the ball so well. We lightened the box up so much, and they just took what we gave them. And so we were playing 5-man boxes just to confuse him in the passing game. But even then, if he just knew a little bit of what we were doing, I mean, he was on the money. They had some really slick concepts in the passing game. And then we got beat up in the secondary. Abraham Williams went out, and we're playing really young guys. Johnson came back to play, but we're really playing young guys in the secondary. So it was really tough for our guys in the secondary to handle a lot of stuff they're doing. But offensively, the receiving group, I mean, Miller and Keegan Johnson are showing that they're big time receivers. They can play in this conference. It's just a matter of we got to find a way to get the ball run, and it starts up front with the line. We've got whether we believe this or not.
I think we lost him
for a second. Yeah, but I'll tell
maybe
you.
Ed, you want to finish that thought?
About the running game. I think one of the points he makes, they loaded up the box again, and New Mexico averaged, I think, 2.7 per. They rushed. There he is. He's back.
I'm sorry, guys. I got a bad connection here.
Finish that thought on the running game, Ned. Finish that thought.
Yeah, just with the running game, they're going to have to get this line stuff figured out. Because Jason Eck is going to run the ball. He's going to run that football. And I don't care, come hell or high water, no matter what he's going to run the football. If he has to find a guy off the streets to come back there and play running back. So these guys are going to have to just step their game up. I just think this was a little bit of a setback. The interception stuff, I'm sure they're studying it, today and tomorrow and the rest of this week, and they're going to eliminate that. I think our quarterback is pretty good, but we went against the
Yeah, I think he froze up. He's having problems with his connection, but he'll check back in. But I think one of the things he's right about, Eric, is the turnover battle. He always talks about the turnover battle and New Mexico turning it over 3 times. And I think I want to ask him about Walker Eggett, 334 yards and 3 touchdowns. Their main running back, Jabari Bates, is out for the year, and they still ran the ball well. And they ran out of the shotgun even with a light front. Ned said that they were able to run the football pretty well, and they 153 yards rushing to 76 for UNM. San Jose State 487 total yards, UNM 420. So I think UNM had 344 total passing yards, but those 3 interceptions were the big difference. You just Danny Scudero for San Jose State, 7 catches, 151 yards, and that long touchdown. So I think, Walker Eggett, if you look, I was telling Nick that, the way he ball handles, he's going to hold the ball, act like he's going to keep it, and then he's a really good ball handler. And the concepts that Ned was talking about, spread and shed, sort of like the run and shoot, read and react routes they can change on the fly. You mentioned it on Friday. You thought maybe UNM was you weren't sure that they were overmatched. You thought that, and you know what? Sean Ryder said the same thing. Maybe they were a little bit overmatched. Remember, this is a 1-3 San Jose State team picked to finish 3rd in the conference, and so they came in, I think, a little bit angry. I saw their game against the last part of it against Stanford Friday in the in a motel in Silver City, and I thought to myself, this is not a 1-3 team. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, I definitely thought the 1-3 was a little misleading for the San Jose State team. Let's not forget, Ed, preseason, they were picked to finish 3rd in the conference. They definitely have a really good quarterback in Walker again, and he clearly commanded that offense. And yeah, I mean, Sean Ryder did touch on it, and when you and I were talking about it in game or during the game, I felt like the Lobos just weren't built personnel-wise in the secondary or up front to be able to handle the passing attack of San Jose State. That's kind of how the offense is built, and that spread and shed, that's what they're known for. And they just have too many weapons that just seem to find the right holes in the zone. And it was hard for the Lobos to, one, get pass protection. I think that zone defense only is effective if you get a decent pass rush on the quarterback to apply some pressure. And UNM was just not able to do that, right? Like 9 sacks the game before, 17 pressures against New Mexico State, and they just weren't able to get to the quarterback in this one. And so they let Walker Aguette kind of dictate the game, the rhythm, and those receivers are just way too experienced. They have way too good of a passing game to find those open pockets in the zone. And like in a zone type defense, right, it's designed to allow the pass rush to get to the quarterback. That's the only way it's effective. The more time that you allow the quarterback to kind of pick and choose, that zone is just going to keep stretching. You're going to keep having to cover over the top or prevent over the top, which the Lobos did get beat on by Scudero early in that first half with that deep ball. So when you start to having to prevent that, you're almost stretching the safeties a little bit too far up above, but you're also exposing yourself to the underneath throws. And I just felt like the Lobos weren't built or equipped with the personnel to be able to slow them down. And when you can't stop the pass like that, you're almost overprotecting. But Ned James touched on it. Once you start having to fill that 5-man box, you're almost holding yourself susceptible to giving up the big run, right? You look at the guy that filled in for their starting running back, Steve Chavez Soto, true freshman, 14 total carries, 71 yards, but 2 touchdowns in his first Division I football game. So it's just tough when you get a healthy dose of an effective running game and I think an above average passing game. This was just a coming out party for San Jose State, man. It was a tough spot for the Lobos to be in. San Jose State was coming off some tough emotional losses, and this team's a lot better than I think their record shows. So, Ned, did you want to finish your thought? I know you got cut off again, but we were talking about San Jose's passing game and Walker Aguette's overall effectiveness. That's okay. Go ahead and finish your thought.
Yeah, they stretch you out horizontally and vertically with the big splits. That's why it was taking newbies so long to get to the quarterback. He would get there, but the ball was gone. I mean, it was quick releases. It was, play action, and then, that kind of 6-7 man protection stuff. So Egan got the ball off. But, it was a hard game to kind of gauge because of the 3 interceptions. But, the Lobos are really going to try and run the ball. They've got to run it a little bit better. They had some little hiccups, but you're right. San Jose is a lot better. They fired their kicker that they got from SC. When this kid was at SC, he didn't miss. Apparently, they must have paid him some money or something. He came home. And he hasn't made. He had missed like 4 or 5 field goals to cost them games, or else they would be 3-1 technically. So it was a better San Jose State team. It's no excuse still. I mean, you can't turn the ball over 3 times. You just can't do it. I thought the Lobos game plan was really good. I mean, they did the exact same thing New Mexico State did. They took away that run, and the big plays were there. We made some of them we didn't. We had the big holding call that called one back. The big to Buckley for the touchdown, the 70-yard pass play was called back for holding. It was little things like that just add up in the end. Even though the Lobos made it a good game at the end, it's just those little things that add up. And I think it gives coaches at night, because I think he thinks this one got away. And then, it was just a knife in the heart when you see Penn State win the next day, Penn State lose the next day to UCLA. That was really the dagger, because then you would really have gotten some publicity for that win over UCLA had you gotten over San Jose State. But hey, you got Boise. No one's expecting you to go up to Boise and win. So there you have it. It's just another a setback for a comeback. So we'll see what happens next week.
You know what, Ned? They had a couple of guys go down. You mentioned Dimitri Johnson, safety David Murphy, cornerback Abraham Williams, and wide receiver Michael Buckley. Their status is unknown for next week. I think you said Dimitri Johnson did come back on the field, but they've got maybe some injury issues, and they've already got Brawley, the safety, out. He's not going to be back. Coach X said till maybe later in the year. that those injuries might play a factor next week when they play Boise State.
Yeah, Boise is really freaking physical when you look at them on tape. I mean, I know Notre Dame manhandled them. Notre Dame made some really athletic plays in that game to win that game, but Boise's big and physical. So this will be a challenge this week. They're going to face the same kind of offensive line they faced. You've got some guys that are beat up, but there's got to be guys to step up. I like the plan. I like what Jason Eck is putting out there. Special teams wise, offense and defense wise, they just have to get this turned around pretty quick here with these injuries. They got to get some guys healed up. They played that top down coverage. I thought it was pretty good. I mean, I thought the plan was good to make them run it, but they ran it. They had those big splits and they sliced and pinned and pulled guys and got creases and got a ton of yards. I mean, they ran for, I don't know, what was it, 170 something yards, which was, the first time they had run the ball that much. They ran more than they passed, which was something they had never shown or done this whole entire season. So it's just, they did a really good job, and they didn't turn the ball over, so they were really fortunate from that standpoint. Or else I think it would have been a different game. But like I said, it's just a minor setback for a comeback. So we'll see what happens this week.
Go ahead, E.
Hey, Ned. I wanted to ask you about just some more of the positive things that came out of this game. Keegan Johnson, who we haven't heard his name called too much so far after transferring to UNM, but 11 catches, 145 yards. This was a bit of a coming out party for him. Is this something that you think this UNM offense can sustain, something maybe that Jack Lane kind of has a secret weapon in?
Well, no, I think he's always been that guy. He's just been banged up. I mean, he came out of spring ball hurt, hamstring issues. And so I think he's always been their number one guy. He was just the guy who was banged up all spring. The guy who's surprising me a little bit, who's not getting the touches, and maybe they see something in his play, is Scott Trey Humphrey, because they're going to the other two guys a little bit more. And I really would like to see Scott Trey Humphrey really kind of put forth a little. I want to see him carry the ball a little bit more, because he's supposed to be their bell cow. So you got to kind of stick with him. He had the fumble, I think, against New Mexico State, came back later, but I don't know if that's kind of put him in the doghouse a little bit. I don't think it's a doghouse, but I just think he's not getting the touches that they were expecting him to have coming in as the preeminent starter. So those are the guys I'm looking forward to. I know Eck is going to run the ball. This is going to be a physical dogfight up there at Boise, because Boise's going to do you. I mean, they look physical on tape. I mean, even Notre Dame smashing them, they were going toe to toe with them. They made some really athletic plays at Notre Dame. So we'll see what happens this week.
Ed.
Ned, just a couple more, man. We'll let you go. But after 5 games, I texted you today. Is this where realistically speaking, new roster, new coach? Is this at 3-2? People talking to you. We'll ask you another question in a minute about stadium renovations, this and that. The fever last week, 37,440 at University Stadium. Is this where you expected Lobo football to be so early in the season?
Well, I mean, I think most people would be happy with the position they're in now with 7 games left. I mean, if you get 3 of these games, you're going bowling. And so I think most people are happy. I mean, as far as the stadium goes, and the fact that it was packed, and the fact that people are saying, hey, we need a better accommodations at these games. When you win, they'll come. But we're the flagship school in the state, so of course we should have a new stadium. But renovations, if they need to do that, that's fine as well. But anything, to kind of make it better for the fan experience, I'm for that. But as far as these 5 games and where the Lobos stand within these 5 games, you couldn't have asked people they would be overjoyed to hear that they were 3-2 at this point in the season. So I don't think it's really anything to really start worrying about just yet. I think you need to get to the halfway point of the season, which is after next game. Then you can start assessing where they're going to be down the road, because then Nevada comes in. They got 2 straight home games after this road stand. And then you could start talking about what kind of projection you want to make with this team in the future and as the rest of the season goes on.
Just two questions, Ned, and we'll let you, unless Eric has another one. Ned, you're a good friend, and I want to let everybody know you are the color commentator along with JJ Buck on KKOB 96.3 for the home games, and you were doing the sideline reporting for a number of years, and as a friend of yours, I'm very happy that you have a platform to talk about the thing you know best, man, and that's football. How are you enjoying, being you've done football and a number of different things, but you're on the air, doing that up there with JJ, all UNM broadcast. How's that working out for you? Are you enjoying that?
Oh man, it's great, man. It's just, to have 3 UNM alums in the box. I mean, it's just fantastic. Being able to, Heather Dyke helped me get Sky on board, and Sky's just been fantastic. McMillan, her dad was an NFL guy. She's been doing the sideline stuff that I used to do. She's going to do 2 more games with us, which is just great. And then, I've known JJ since I first got here, and I started doing the radio. We did the pregame show and all that stuff, and I lucked up and got that position. I've just been blessed, and it's just been a blast. It's just fun always to talk football. And then you get to talk to guys back home and all the alumni guys, about how proud you are of the guys. And, you can kind of take some of the steam off of the losses with a lot of the alumni guys by just kind of breaking the game down to them a little bit, and, just letting them know what the expectations are, and just letting them know how good the people are that are surrounding football. Just like you guys, it's no different. You guys are doing a great job with the Pit Press and help. And I'm just blessed and happy to be a part of all of it.
Well, it's great to hear you. Like I said, you've been on our show with Ryan and I for, many times. One more question, Ned. Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt, 14 carries, 111 yards today. The Commanders' 27-10 victory over the Los Angeles Chargers. Any surprise that Bill is where he's at and thriving, man? Made some big plays today. Any surprise there at all?
Yeah, he's a great guy, man. I'm just so happy for him. He's a fine young man. To get him from Alabama to come to Albuquerque.
Shoot, poor Ned. Running out. We will take a quick commercial break. Ed and I will come back. I think Nick's going to join us a little bit later so that we can talk about kind of maybe a little bit about Boise State and the matchup coming back. There's Ned. He's back. Go ahead and finish your thought, Ned. It looks like you cut
I'm
out
sorry,
there for
guys. I got that.
All good.
No. I just said I'm just proud of all this. I'm just happy for all you guys. I'm just happy to be a part of all this. It's not just the work that I do with be able to talk football with alumni. And you said you wanted to go into Boise State. I was going to talk a little about Boise State too. As far as their offense and defense, they're just physical. I mean, there's nothing really else to talk about. I mean, I'm going to get into the tape a little bit more as the week goes on, but they're just a really physical bunch from what I've seen so far. And I'm expecting, to be a physical game. I think we practice really hard. I know I've said that before. I think that's a big part of why we play as well as we do is how hard they practice the kids. And they've got a lot of assistant coaches out there. They got a lot of support staff out there getting after them. So, I mean, I expect these guys to do well moving forward. So I'm looking forward to the rest of the season.
Yeah. Ed, any last final thoughts before I go to commercial and we can let Ned go for the evening?
Ned, hey, man, as always, brother, thank you so much for coming on. Your expertise is always appreciated.
Yeah.
Hey, thank you guys for having me, man. Sorry about the bad connection tonight. All right. Thank you, guys.
We'll have you on. We'll have you back on for sure. Always.
Yep. And we will be right
Thank
back.
you.
Our endless summer event is your savings paradise with outstanding offers at Capital Ford in Santa Fe. Like a new Ford F-150 STX, it's a summer buy for $699 a month plus 4.9% APR financing for 72 months. Or get summer savings on a new 2025 Ford Bronco with 0% APR for 48 months. Your summer of savings is right here, right now, during our endless summer event, going on now at Capital Ford in Santa Fe.
Hey, welcome back to the Pit Press Live. I'm your host, Eric Moulton, joined by Ed Nunez. Ed, I always like to listen to what Ned has to say, man. Ned's been out there on the battlefield. He totally gets it. I think he really understands, even at the NFL level, at the fastest and most competitive level there is in the world. And he just understands it from an X's and O's perspective. He calls it as he sees it. But I think he's very critical of this program in a good way, right? I think he just holds them to a different standard. But I think he's also very smart in his breakdowns and kind of understands from an X's and O's perspective. But I thought his takes were pretty much spot on with what I think I was thinking, but the way he kind of conveys that message makes a little bit more sense once he talks about it, or is able to kind of more easily summarize it than what you and I can do. And he just kind of keeps it in perspective. But I think he's high on this team, right? I think there's a lot of guys on this team that are pleasant surprises for how quickly they've been able to pull things together. And I think there's some guys on this roster that we didn't really consider early on coming on the season. I think Scott Trey Humphrey was one guy that I felt like we leaned on pretty heavily because of the accolades that he had at the FCS level. And he just quite hasn't hit his stride yet. But Damon Bankston has filled in that spot quite nicely and has been a pleasant surprise for this roster and someone that the roster has definitely been able to lean on. But I think this offense kind of has a different level to them. To get there with more of a healthy balance. I think obviously getting a healthy Keegan Johnson back and being able to stretch the field, but also keeping that balance in there, being able to run the ball with multiple running backs. I think Damon Bankston is that guy that's more of a speed guy, change of pace back, where Scott Trey Humphrey might be more of your muscle type back, kind of ground and pound and get you those close first downs or the short yardage type situation. So I don't know. What did you think about what Ned had to say before I bring on Nick and we can jump into the Lobo Howl?
You know, Eric, Ned and I have been friends a long, long time, man. There's very few people I have respect for as far as when they talk football. We're pretty good with when we talk X's and O's. You, myself, and my son. My son knows a lot. You know a lot. One guy that we interviewed on the Lobo Legend series, David Quixote. Talk to him about X's and O's. That dude is amazing, man. He really is. Works with Volcano Vista, the basketball program there, and has been a big part of their championships working behind the scenes. The guy knows basketball like you wouldn't believe. And Ned, coach at the NFL level, man. So, yeah, when he talks football, I just listen, and he's been a great guest for us. And him and I, like I said, he's a very good friend, man. I have a lot of respect for him. So I'm always glad when he comes on and he gives you the truth. He tells you what to look out for, what matchups, why they're doing what they're doing, and explains to you in layman's terms that you can understand. So it's always great to have Ned on.
Yep. Want to welcome to the show Mr. Nick Nunez, sometimes the better half of the Nunez duo. But before we get into Lobo basketball, Nick, wanted to get your thoughts on Lobo football, man. That they kind of held their own against San Jose State, but it was also a bad time to run into a buzzsaw team that was a little bit more desperate for a win than I think the Lobos were.
Yeah, for sure. Eric, Dad, good evening. Tough loss for UNM on Friday. I think Ned hit all the high points, and you guys broke it down really well, man. That was just an offense that we just couldn't stop, I know you guys talked about the fronts that were used by UNM on the defensive line. Coach Eck talked about it in the post-game press conference when Sean Ryder of the Albuquerque Journal interviewed him. And he just talked about, the game plan going in, 3-man defensive front, and San Jose just kind of picked that apart. So I agree with all that. I think they'll bounce back, man. It's going to be tough against Boise. Going into Boise on Saturday, 7:45 kickoff against Boise. But, man, everybody remembers the magical evening we had about 10 years ago when we beat Boise on the blue turf. Dad, you remember. Eric, you remember saying that Holly Holm knocked out Ronda Rousey. So we've made magic happen up there before. This may be the last time that UNM gets to play on the blue turf. I don't know. But, hopefully they make it count.
Yeah, did either of you get to catch any of the Notre Dame Boise State game?
No, I didn't.
I did not either.
Yeah,
did you?
I caught a little bit of it. Yeah, I thought Notre Dame, man, they have 5-star recruits all over the field. I felt like athletically speaking, they just had so many guys in the field that kind of overpowered Boise. But Boise State held their own, man. They kept it close in the first half. At one point, it was a 1-score game. Boise State actually led early in that game by scoring the first touchdown, and they were able to punch back. But in the second half, you could just see the athleticism, the strength kind of take over for Notre Dame and really made it hard. The pass rush ended up getting after Maddox Maxon. He finished the day, no touchdowns, 4 interceptions, but it looked like in the second half he was under a lot of pressure because I think Notre Dame's defense was just kind of full of guys that were mixing up a lot of looks. They were getting after him on some blitz and just making it really hard for them to throw it downfield, and they definitely contained them from a running perspective. Who Boise State, in my mind, has kind of a backfield, one of the best backfields in the Mountain West, if not the west part of the country. But they were really able to kind of contain. Sire Gaines was held to 40 yards. Dylan Riley, 33 yards. Malik Sherrod, the transfer from Fresno State, was held to 6 yards on 3 carries. So I'm just curious to see, is Boise State the class of this conference still, which I think they are. I think depending on who you ask, but UNLV was able to go out to Wyoming and beat them on an icy/snowy field. I think UNLV definitely has an argument in their pocket to say that maybe they're the class of the Mountain West this year. But looking ahead to next week, I think the Lobos might have a shot of making it competitive, but I think they've got to clean up a few things. Definitely can't have the turnovers or the interceptions that they had against San Jose State. I don't think Boise State's going to throw the ball as much as San Jose State did, but they've definitely got a plethora of running back who the Lobos are going to have to work really hard to contain. But enough Lobo football from me now. I don't want to feel like I'm rambling anymore, so let's jump into some Lobo hoops. Nick, you were at the Lobo Howl last night, man. What did you see? What did you take away? How was the atmosphere?
It was a great atmosphere, man. I think UNM did a really good job of promoting this event. We had myself and Mark Smith, who's been working with us, former beat writer from the Albuquerque Journal that covered Lobo basketball under the Alford era, and got to chat with him a little bit at the pit. The slam dunk contest, I think, was the highlight of the evening for sure. That's what's been going viral on all the social media platforms. But it started out with player introductions. Every player from the men's and women's basketball team went down the ramp, got their name announced. And from there, we got into some dynamic stretching. The teams went back and forth, doing different stretches to get ready, to get warmed up. Then there was the skills competition. As you see here, this is footage of the dunk contest. I think this is courtesy of UNM Athletics. But, yeah, this was the highlight of the night. I guess we'll look at some of these. I remember that one. That was when Patton went reverse. I don't know if that was in the finals. Uriah Tenet did this. This was to pay homage to Jamal Fenton, who did it in the Howl. Back in 2009, I want to say. And then we see the between the legs by Patton with the left hand. I believe he's a righty. Just a lot of highlights, man. Yeah, the dunk contest was phenomenal. Antonio Chol competed as well. He jumped from the Mountain West logo. Pretty nice. Dayton Albury, who didn't make the finals, he had a windmill on an alley-oop from Luke Hopt, and then he jumped over Tomislav Boyan. And completed both dunks. On the judges panel, Jeff Grammer, I don't remember the name of the women's player that was there. I'll get that in a second. and then Jamal Fenton. So, fair panel of judges. It went down to Tannett and Patton at the end. And Patton, I can't remember what his last dunk was. I think it was that alley-oop into the between the legs with the left hand. So just a lot of really good dunks, Eric. The one thing that I took away from the dunk contest, there was nobody who was unable to complete a dunk. Like everybody completed a dunk within the 30-minute time or 30-second time period. Just some really nice dunks. Check the videos out on UNM men's basketball's social media pages. They got them all on there. Look really great. But just a really good event, man. Really good event. The three-point contest was competitive as well. That was Jake Hall from the UNM men's basketball team, the commit from San Diego, and then Kaya Foster from the women's basketball team. And, Kaya Foster got Jake Hall in the finals. So I know I'm rambling, man, but it was a great event, really put on really well, and enjoyed it a lot.
How was the turnout? I know that Mark Smith did write an article for us, reported about 2,000 fans were there. Both men's and women's teams showed out, but completely different rosters for both squads. How was the welcoming of the team and the excitement? I know that fans were able to welcomed onto the floor to sign autographs with some of the players. Olin kind of talked at the beginning of everything too, but what was the aura like? How were the teams received?
I think really well, man. The article that Mark wrote for us, he estimated about 2,000 people in the pit to watch the Howl on Saturday night. I'd say that's fair. I was thinking around there, maybe 1,500 to 3,000 range, give or take. No way to track the attendance. Tickets, everybody got in free. They did have concessions. Eric, I thought they were received really well. Dylan Storm, the PA announcer, did a really good job of engaging the crowd in the three-point contest and in the dunk contest. And then the cool thing, Eric, is they let fans not just to go get autographs, but they let them get on the court for the dunk contest. Anybody who wanted to be on the court could get on the court, had a courtside view of a really good slam dunk contest. So they were received really well. The 2,000 or so people that showed up were in it, man.
Yeah, well, I think everyone knows right now that Uriah Tannett was definitely the slam dunk champion, listed at 5'10", which to me maybe might be a little gracious and listed at 5'10", maybe closer to 5'8", 5'9". Talk about his athletic ability though, man. His ability to kind of get up and throw it down with some of the best of them.
Man, I've been reading some of the comments on UNM's social media pages, and I think one of them read why does bro have so much bounce? And he just, you hit the nail on the head, Eric. I was kind of taking a look at his body, his legs. He was a quarterback for his high school in Prescott, Arizona. I want to say he got all state honors. I'd have to check that and make sure. But just an athlete, man. And he has a quick athletic jump. He doesn't even make you question it. Like when he goes up to dunk, he's going to complete it. I don't know if there was a dunk that he missed last night in the dunk contest. On the backflip dunk, he backflips twice, but he didn't like the pass that he got. I believe it was his dad who was throwing him the pass from the stands. Second pass was perfect, right on the money into an alley-oop. But, a truly athletic kid, and can't wait to see him do that in the pit.
Yeah, the skills challenge. Can you talk to us? What did they go through exactly with the skills challenge? I know Tajavis Miller was the one that ended up winning it for the men's team, but what did that look like? And how much can that kind of be, converted over to what you might see in a real game?
Yeah, it was Tajavis Miller and Jesse Joaquim, I think, that won it. So what it was is it starts out with a bounce pass into the net. From there, you get the ball out of the net, and then you dribble through cones. The first series was going between your legs through about 4 or 5 sets of cones, and then you had to pull up for a shot outside of the lane. Get the ball out of the basket. On the other side, you throw a chest pass into the net, get the ball out of the net, dribble through 4 or 5 cones, behind the back, into a layup. And the team that got it the fastest won, and it was, again, Tajavis Miller and Jesse Joaquim. Destiny Hicks and Chris Howell, I believe, were in the finals also for that. So, man, whenever in a game do you see a basketball player throw just a straight chest pass? Both you guys played basketball. Eric, you were a state champion. Dad, you were a North-South All-Star and many other accolades at Highland High School. And, when do you ever see somebody throw a straight chest pass in a game?
Not very rare, man.
Right. It's a hook pass, right? You got to find an angle, passing angle. So anyway, it was just something to introduce the players, man. You got to see their athletic ability a little bit. And I enjoyed it. I think a similar version is done in the NBA All-Star game. I think that's what they were trying to model it after. It was just good to see the players get up and down, man, for sure.
Yeah. All right.
Son, you can ask some real quick, Eric.
Go ahead.
Tanette, you and I were talking about him and what athleticism. When you see guys back flipping like that, explosive. Eric and I saw him off 2 feet the other day, right at the rim. Boom. And you saw the skill. I'm glad you were out there. I don't think the Lobos had howled since 21. If it was in the paper, I don't think they've had a howl for a while. So now you see, we saw them practice the other day. Well, and again, we didn't see a lot. 30 minutes of what he wanted us. We didn't see a lot. Skill set on at the howl. Now you saw a lot of skill sets out there. Any idea what kind of product they're going to put on the floor? I mean, he's talked about what they're going to do. It's a read and react offensive system. Defensively, they're going to put a lot. You mentioned they're going to put a lot of pressure. Maybe press. I think they'll do that. Any idea of what kind of team Coach Olin might have when it comes time to tip it up, man?
It's hard to say, Dad. I think everybody has that question. We hear Coach Olin kind of describe what this offense is going to look like. Obviously, we have the UCSD tape to look at last year. We've put up some articles about that on the Pit Press and the Pit Press Plus. But, yeah, I think the numbers from last year are an indicator, analytics-wise, of what this team may look. And that's everything you just said, Dad. Playing fast, playing with speed, interchangeable pieces. Coach Olin has said he values skill sets more than he does positions. There may be some lineups out there where Tanette or Albury aren't on the floor, but given how athletic those guys are, I mean, Dayton Albury was in the slam dunk contest as well, and he performed really well. So, yeah, Dad, I think they're going to want to play up and down, shoot a lot of threes. That UCSD team last year shot a lot of threes. I don't have the numbers up in front of me. But I think it's going to be a style of basketball that Lobo basketball fans are really going to enjoy.
Guys, yeah, I think, again, we mentioned that if you look at the football team, 70, whole new roster, some holdovers and some important holdovers, but the basketball team didn't have one holdover. Everybody transferred. So a whole new roster, whole new team, whole new coaching staff, a whole new system. I think it was Will Weber that said they're going to play 180 degrees different than what Patino's team did, and he's right. And so I think people that like Son and Eric, I can't compare them to the 77, 78 Lobos. Neither one of you guys were alive back then. But, man, that team was – God, I wish you guys could have seen that team. They put up 100 points several times, remember, without 3-point shots. So imagine that team ran. They pressed. Man, they had some athletes. Holy cow, Michael Cooper being amongst them, one of the greatest Lobos of all time. And, I'm old, and so I'm dating myself. But people to remember them, that team, man, wow, that's all I can tell you. Slam dunks galore, steals, some exciting plays. So I think from an excitement standpoint, Nick and Eric, I think Lobo fans are going to enjoy and plus everything I've heard about Coach Olin. He's one of the most sought after coaches there is. He's on the upswing. I talked to a very good coach, the coach at Oklahoma Christian, Dan Hayes. He made our Highland Hall of Fame, and he told me that Coach Olin is well regarded. So I think UNM's had 3 straight 20 win seasons under Patino, and Lobo fans, of course, want a baton pass where it keeps the momentum going. There might be a couple hiccups. I don't know that they're going to succeed right out of the gate. There might be a couple of games that aren't so good. I read an article in the San Diego Union that they had lost to Seattle last year, an ugly loss. USC San Diego did, his team last year. So there will be hiccups in the road, but I'm looking forward to it. I think the roster he's put together are players that fit his system. I think Albury was a big get. I really do when they got him. But I think, Nick, you saw some other guys, Howell, Tanette, Patton. There's so many guys. Antonio Chol, I'm looking forward to seeing him. Rock. There's so many guys I just can't wait to see in action and see how they fit the system.
Yeah. No, I 100% agree with that. Eric, were you going to say something?
I was actually going to just change the subject. I know we're coming up on an hour now, but I wanted to get your guys' thoughts. There was some recent news that came out last week, some pretty significant news at that, but with UNM launching that development feasibility study for the UNM football stadium sports entertainment district. Looks like they had hired a consulting agency in Decker to conduct a study. I know that at the last game, so the New Mexico State home game, Fernando Lobo alluded to having about 10 to a dozen architects and developers in attendance, really there to evaluate, right? Look at the stadium, look at opportunities for flow of traffic inside and outside the stadium, concessions, places for retail, safety, things like that. I think it's a lot of stuff that UNM Lobo fans have kind of talked about and even took to social media during and post the New Mexico State game, just concerns for safety and kind of bottlenecking traffic within the stadium and things like that. But I know, Ed, you had reached out to one of your friends, maybe Mo Maestas, who is working with the city and the state, that might be able to come on the show and provide a little bit more details and what that study entails and looking for what they want to get out of that. Like what are the benefits? How much is a project like that going to take? But I think a lot of this was moving before even people had thought it might have really come to fruition. But Ed, I'm going to kick it over to you just to kind of get your initial thoughts, and then maybe you can give us some details on your conversation with Mo Maestas and him making himself available to come on our show to kind of update the public on what's going on.
I was there. I was there. Nick covered for me at Western last week, and my wife and I went to the game. And like I said on the previous show, sometimes most of the time I sit in the press box, and I like it up there. But you know what? I had fun with my wife being a fan. I could cheer, and you can't cheer up there, and I understand why, the press box. But and usually on press row, my son has to settle for an elbow to his chest if the Lobos do something good. He's taken plenty of them. He hadn't complained yet. So that's my nature of cheering down there. But okay, so after the game, and I'd said this Ryan and I did a show Saturday. Game management had to have a good game too. I'd said there's going to be what are the parking issues going to be like? What are the concessions? There were some restroom issues, and there was some restroom issues. I went to the restroom at halftime. There was about a 15 to 20 minute wait. They had clogged restrooms on the north end. Look, that facility cannot handle the parking. It can't. And it was a fine facility when it was built in 66, 67, whenever it was. There's been talk about, redoing the gates, concessions. Mo Maestas said in the paper, and I just reached out to him. I don't really know him, but I reached out and said, hey, I read what you said in the paper. Would you be willing to come on? Yeah, I'd love to. He said he felt UNM deserved a new stadium with all the amenities like San Diego State and Colorado State. That's what he said. Now they're going to do all this study, Eric and Nick, about parking, infrastructure, A to Z, man, about that whole facility. They'd like to develop that south area to restaurants, a spot
entertainment district.
Right. A spot that makes economic sports sense. You already got the Topes over there. You got the Topes over there at Isotopes Park. So yeah, they would like to do that. Now, you know what? You guys will live a lot longer than I will to see that. I'd love to see that. And I don't know what they're going to do with the stadium, but the sellout against the Aggies at least got the conversation started. And look, another friend of mine made this point. Paul Krebs probably cost us several years not doing that, not doing something. Football is a revenue driver. There's people that are saying dumb things like, oh, football is never going to be this or that. Okay. It drives revenue here at the university in any school. So I'm anxious to see what they're going to do. Like I said, they're going to check everything A to Z. And hopefully when Mo Maestas, he's a representative, a Democratic representative, I'm not sure from what district. His father, Frank, the late Frank Maestas, used to write for the Albuquerque Journal sports section. He used to read Frank Maestas in the New Mexico Sports Hall of Fame. Used to read him all the time. So I think he'll be a good guest. But I think something obviously needs to be done. What comes out of that study, we'll see. That takes about a year or so. So at least the conversation is taking place, because it hadn't. Nobody had ever thought about it. When you have 11,000 fans, that you're saying 17, right? They said 17. What was it realistically? Probably 11, maybe 10. But now, they got to keep winning. One win doesn't mean you build a whole new stadium, but at least the conversation is taking place. I'm happy about that.
Yeah, I think a big piece of that too is being able to sustain the crowds, to drive the revenue, to afford the payments on, because this is going to be financed, right? Like, it's going to come from tax subsidies. They got to get that money back for making the initial investment, that ROI. But Nick, what did you think when you saw the news leak out about that? And obviously, I think the news is exciting, but logistically thinking, I think a lot of moving parts with it. But what were your thoughts when you heard about that?
I think the Lobo Aggie football game, the Rio Grande rivalry that was played, was really a wake-up call for everybody, because people have talked about this for years. Eric, Dad, I mean, this isn't the first time we've heard, let's renovate University Stadium and make it more accessible for fans to get in. That's no fault of the current administration. It's just an old building. I mean, Dad, what year did it come up? 62?
I think 66, 67, around there.
Yeah.
Maybe sooner. I'll have to look that up. Yeah.
Well, Fernando Lobo has come out and said, just think about the aisles between where the stairs are on the higher deck of both sides of the stadium. From there, the end, to there where the bleachers start on the lower end. It's just super narrow, man. It's so hard to navigate through that stadium. It should not be that difficult of a fan experience. So it needs to be renovated or replaced, but something needs to be done. And hopefully this is the first step. I think we've got the right people in charge making these decisions, Eric. I think this feasibility study was a good move for UNM, and it just gets the ball rolling. So hopefully something comes out of it and we see a better football stadium for UNM football.
One quick point, gentlemen. I was wrong. University Stadium in Albuquerque was built in the year 1960. Construction starting in 1958, opening for the Lobo football team September 17th, 1960, at a cost of $4 million. So that thing is ancient, man. It really is. It served its purpose then. Zimmerman Field, where Don Perkins played, the former Dallas Cowboy, he played at Zimmerman Field, was on the campus. So they built University Stadium in 1960, and it's a long past time to do something with it. Now, people are going to disagree. Some people say just renovate what you have. And this study will at least say, what else can we do to build the South Side, over there for restaurants, and they want to make it more than just football, right? Concerts, things like that. So at least they're, like I said, they got the ball rolling.
I think they even talked about hosting more high school football events there too, state championships, playoffs, things like that. I know that Yodish from the Albuquerque Journal was opposed to that, but I guess it kind of depends on who you ask, right? I think any New Mexico high school athlete, right, when you're talking about the state tournament for basketball, Road to the Pit, that's what our podcast, your guys' podcast, is named over. That's what the dream is, right? As a high school freshman coming in, you want to play on the pit floor. Why wouldn't you want to play at University Stadium in a high school state championship or a playoff game?
I'll say, Nick and I both had the opportunity to cover championship games. I've covered 2 championships at Bloomfield, at Melrose. I've been lucky, fortunate to cover. And I'll tell you one thing. This is just my opinion. And Son, you can weigh in afterward too. The town, they want to stay at home, man. And when we went to Bloomfield, you should see the mob scene on the field afterward. Bloomfield beating Pius last year. Get to go on the field. And I was at Taos a couple years ago when they won. So there's a lot of teams. Artesia, Son, Roswell, the Wool Bowl, the Bulldog Bowl. They'll tell you, hey, man, we want to have our championships right here. Eunice, they have a great stadium. So there's, I see what you're saying about the Pit, Eric. I think is, somewhere where everybody wants to be. But I think a lot of those towns I just mentioned would rather play their football championship games right on their home field. Son, what do you think?
Yeah, on the point of centralizing the Mexico State high school football championships, I agree, Eric. I think there is a good argument for that most high school athletes would want to come to New Mexico's flagship university, the biggest football stadium in the state, and play. But let me tell you, man, I mean, I don't know if that would apply to just certain classes like Class 6A. I can see that making sense. Class 5A, where are the best teams in Class 5A? I mean, they're in the South. You know, you got Artesia, Roswell, Goddard's good this year. Lovington has been good. You know, a lot of the brass of Class 5A football is in the South. I don't know if they'd want to come up here. I think about Class 6-man. Dad, you've seen some 6-man football games.
Yeah.
I had the pleasure of directing Roy Mascaro versus Gateway Christian in Class 6-man football. This was a couple years ago. It was in the town of Roy, and the atmosphere, Dad, that you just described, I mean, the whole town of Roy was there with their cowbells. Everybody was into it. It was a good game. I don't see it being the same atmosphere at University Stadium. So we'll have to see, man. We'll have to kind of see how that shakes out. I think it's a nice idea on paper, and it'd be nice to know if University Stadium is available as a venue of choice. But, yeah, we'll have to see how that plays out.
We'll see. I think you guys all have good points. And I don't necessarily feel like it's a one-size-fits-all type of scenario, but I mean, the same use case that you would have for like a Milne Stadium or the stadium that they have out way off Volcano and 98th, right? Like, why couldn't you play a city game at University Stadium, like a Cleveland versus La Cueva, or an in-town game, or have a team from Santa Fe come up and play at University Stadium? Just offering the opportunity for some of these high school athletes to get a taste for playing in a stadium like that that's midweek, that might not ever get the opportunity to do it again. That's all I was saying there. But they want to use it as a multi-use facility. I think you generate more revenue like that. The experience, you kind of build the buzz behind it, right? It's the aura, the atmosphere of being in a giant stadium like that. But I'll get off my soapbox for a little bit. But before we wrap up tonight's show, Nick, I know that you had reached out to your buddy Sam Ehrlich, Boise State professor, lawyer. He has agreed to come on the Pit Press in about a week, next Tuesday, I think it was, to really do a deep dive on kind of what's going on now with the dismissal of the Mountain West case, to kind of dismiss the Pac-12's argument regarding the conference realignment and the poaching arguments, stuff like that. So, Nick, do you want to mention anything else on top of that? Maybe some more details about what you guys plan on talking about?
No, I appreciate it, Eric. Yeah, really thankful to Dr. Sam Ehrlich from Boise State University for agreeing to come on our show again. We had him on this summer to discuss the House settlement. In fact, we were privileged to speak with him on the day that the House settlement went into effect. Sam Ehrlich, a well-respected sports legal commentator, has his website, litigationtracker.com, where he tracks eligibility lawsuits. You know, he's agreed to come on and talk about one of the highest profile eligibility lawsuits in college athletics, and that's Diego Pavia, the Albuquerque native, graduate of Volcano Vista High School in 2020, right, Dan?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, and so it's 2025 right now. He's 25 years old. The amount of years that he's gotten to play college athletics is more than pretty much. I mean, I know there's been some guys that have played extremely long seasons, but he's certainly the most well-known, or he has to be one of them. And I think, you know, Sam will come on and maybe explain a little bit of the legal backdrop about how Diego Pavia got to that place. And then we'll also talk a little bit about a Pac-12 Mountain West, you know, the big news of the case going forward, the judge denying the Mountain West Conference's motion to dismiss. We'll talk a little bit about that case. Feel free to send us some questions. You know, if you want to chat us some questions, message some questions, ask us. We're happy to try to think about those. I'm going to do my due diligence and try to do my homework and prepare some good questions for Sam. But just really, really thankful to have Dr. Ehrlich coming on.
Right on. Yeah, we'll make sure to send out some reminders ahead of that live stream, just to kind of give you guys a heads up so you know when to tune in. But before we wrap it up for tonight, Ed, Nick, I wanted to show just some of the comments, some of the people chiming in. Looks like we had some people attend the Lobo Howl as well. Steve Singletary, I was at the Howl. I just wished they would have scrimmaged. We still don't know much. I think a lot of people would have wished they would have been a little bit of up and down, right? A little bit of 5-on-5, if not something more competitive, than just a skills challenge. But Coach Olin was pretty opposed to that. It seemed like even in his press conference leading up to it, he didn't seem it was appropriate to run more 5-on-5, but maybe they're just keeping a lot of stuff really kind of close to their chest there. But John Romero, another common viewer, commenter, friend of the show. I sure enjoy the heck out of technical football breakdown from the experts such as Ned and the Pit Press team. Perfect way to wrap up my weekend. Thank you. Well, thank you, John, for tuning in always and always dropping in some thoughtful comments. Another friend of the show, Ben Wysong. Tough loss for Lobo football, but these young men will staff and regroup. I got a big one in Boise this weekend. That indeed they do. I think Boise, like I mentioned at the beginning of the show, is probably the class of the Mountain West. UNLV might be a very close second. So I think the Lobos definitely got a big test ahead of them. And if they're going to get any shot at that one, I think they're going to have to play a much cleaner and more aggressive game than they did against San Jose State. But I'm looking forward to it, man. I think big time measuring stick for where this program wants to move as a program, especially in the reshaped Mountain West. And I'm going to move one step closer to hopefully becoming bowl eligible. Eric Markham, another one. He really enjoyed the Howl. It was a lot of fun. Basketball is around the corner. And then Kino Kini, I like to see the rail yards considered as a possible location for a new stadium. What locations do you guys think? That's something to also consider. I know that they looked at that for possible the New Mexico United Soccer Stadium. Was that, do I have that right? Did they look at that location
I think
or
so.
something like that?
I think as far as locations go, I'd like where it's at, possibly because it's centrally located. So that's a tough one for me to think about. If it's not there, where else on campus? They're not going to build one on campus, I don't think. There's enough parking problems at UNM as there is right now. When I was there, and it's it was a long time ago. So I kind of like it where it's at right now. So we'll have to see what that study comes up with.
Yeah. Nick, any final comments before we wrap up? Go ahead.
No, man, no. Great show. Great getting on with you guys. One more thing, Lobo basketball is going to start having some open practices starting this Thursday. I believe that's October 9th. They'll have practice starting at 9:30 a.m. Media members can attend, cannot video, cannot take any photos, but we can do some player and coach interviews before practice. Media can show up around 8:30, 8:45 on Thursday, interview some players, maybe Coach Olin or an assistant coach. So we'll do our best to get out there, get it covered, interview some athletes, talk to Coach Olin, and further educate Lobo Nation about what this team may look like.
We'll probably come back to you guys later in the week after we're able to kind of attend some of those practices, try to pull together a show just previewing Boise State because I think it's justified. It's a big game. Ed, any final thoughts before we sign off?
Well, I'm going to Boston. My wife and I are going to Tuesday, so I'm going to get to see the Basketball Hall of Fame, man. And told my wife, you better give me about 5 hours, and I'm one of them dudes that's going to read everything. These are dudes that I read about. And women that I read about when I was a kid. So it's going to take me a long time to get through there, and we're looking forward to it. Some other great things we're going to do on that trip, some historical, tours of Boston where the, Revolution, Paul Revere, stuff like that. So looking forward to it.
Yeah, right on. Well, you guys have a good rest of the evening. Thanks for tuning in. For Nick Nunez, Ed Nunez, I'm Eric Moulton. Thanks for watching the Pit Press Live.